Good evening, happy 2020, and welcome to This Week in Turkey. Turkey's presidency submitted a motion to the Parliament Speaker's office to send troops to Libya in light of a request by Libya's UN-recognized government for military assistance. Turkish Parliament approved the motion yesterday.
The motion seeks a one-year mandate to deploy troops in Libya, maintaining that developments in Libya threaten Turkey's interests there, including Turkish businesses in the country and Turkish vessels sailing in the Mediterranean, according to the draft text. The ruling Justice and Development Party and its ally Nationalist Movement Party announced they would back the motion, while the main opposition Republican People's Party, Good Party, and People's Democratic Party have come out against it. We don't want this terrible picture that unfolded in Syria to unfold in yet another country, Ünal Çeviköz, the CHP's deputy chairman, told reporters after a meeting with Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu. We will never accept Turkey to be a part of the proxy war in Libya and, by siding with one of the sides of the conflict, a cause of the shedding of Muslim blood, Çeviköz said. Chaired by Parliamentary Speaker Mustafa Şentop, the General Assembly of the Parliament convened on January 2 in an emergency meeting to debate the motion. The motion was approved by a vote of 325 against 184. On November 27, Ankara and Libya's UN-recognized Government of National Accord signed two separate accords, a pact on military cooperation as well as a pact on maritime boundaries in the eastern Mediterranean. Libya has remained beset by turmoil since 2011, when a bloody NATO-backed uprising led to the ouster and death of long-serving President Muammar Gaddafi after more than 4 decades in power. Since then, Libya's stark political divisions have yielded two rival seats of power, one in Tobruk and another in Tripoli, and a host of heavily armed militia groups.
This evening, our guest is Sinan Ülgen, who is a visiting scholar at Carnegie Europe in Brussels, chairman of the Istanbul-based think tank EDAM, Center for Economics and Foreign Policy Studies, and a former diplomat. Good evening, Mr. Ülgen. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Yes, thank you.
So Mr. Ülgen, how do you evaluate the motion to deploy troops to Libya? What are Turkey's interests and intentions in Libya and the Eastern Mediterranean at large?
Well, those are two different questions, but let's start with Libya. Obviously, it's linked to the Eastern Mediterranean question. Essentially, as far as Libya is concerned, Turkey's strategic objective, it seems, is to protect the Tripoli government, essentially because Turkey signed quite recently, a few weeks ago, an agreement with the Tripoli government for the delimitation of the maritime borders in the Eastern Mediterranean. As a result, Turkey wants the Tripoli government to remain in power so that that particular agreement remains in existence. But on the ground, the Sarraj, the government of national accord, is under heavy military pressure. I think we can surmise that the Tripoli government's signature on that agreement was made conditional on a commitment by Turkey to help the government militarily. And that is why we have seen this bill tabled in the Turkish parliament, which is now going to pave the way for an increased military engagement of Turkey in Libya. The military objective will in essence be to essentially defend Tripoli against the forces of the armed opposition led by General Haftar, which incidentally is also backed by a number of third countries, including Egypt, United Arab Emirates, and also Russia more recently. So the challenge for Turkey will be firstly whether it can remain as in a non-combatant role, which is what Ankara wants initially. But I would assume that this is going to prove quite difficult, and Turkey may indeed be, in a way, sucked in the theater of war and go beyond the purely non-combatant role, which is the risk that we see in terms of a potential escalation there. This will very much also depend on how the other countries react to Turkey's decision to send military force to Libya. If other countries, and particularly Egypt, decides also to escalate, then this path of a military escalation would certainly become much more tangible. And that fundamentally is the risk facing Turkey.
But in case of escalation and the sending of troops to Libya, what type of potential crisis could this lead to, for example, with Russia? And would Turkey be able to manage this crisis?
I think ultimately what Turkey wants to achieve is a situation of checkmate in Libya, which is essentially a situation where neither side can declare victory. So
you mentioned, Mr. Ülgen, that Turkey does not want to would prefer a non-combatant role in Libya. However, this motion did pass yesterday, and there is the promise or the military condition promise to the national accord, the government of national accord that Turkey promised. How would Turkey justify sending troops to Libya as opposed to having a diplomatic role in the conflict?
Well, in this particular case, of course, unlike Syria, where Turkey had backed the opposition, here Turkey is sending forces based on the request of the legitimate and internationally recognized government of Libya. So that is a very clear difference in terms of how this military involvement will be justified internationally. Of course, domestically, also the situation is quite different compared to, for instance, the cross-border operations in Syria that we have seen in recent memory. Those cross-border operations had in the Turkish parliament yesterday. So this has become more of a partisan issue with the government and its political ally, the MHP, backing this motion, whereas all the opposition parties, CHP, E Party, and HDP, were against, and also Saadet Partisi, were against this opposition. So domestically, this is viewed differently than Turkey's military engagement in Syria, for instance.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Ülgen, for your assessment of the motion to deploy troops to Libya.
Thank you for having me.
The Environmental Impact Assessment Report for Canal Istanbul was presented to the public for 10 days. Citizens queued up in front of provincial directorates of environment and urbanization to object to the project.
Since December 23, citizens across the country, especially Istanbulites, have queued up in front of provincial directorates of environment and urbanization affiliated with the Ministry of Environment and Urbanization and submitted their petitions of objection. The report was open to the comments and criticisms of the public for 10 days, from December 23 to January 2. Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu also put forward his objection to the environmental impact report on December 30. I came here to object to the environmental impact assessment report of Canal Istanbul in order to protect the rights of 16 million patriotic citizens who are the beautiful people of this beautiful city and the rights of 82 million patriotic fellow citizens, he told reporters in front of the building of the Provincial Directorate of Environment and Urbanization in the district of Beşiktaş. Good Party Chairman Meral Akşener too has submitted a petition objecting to the project. All specialists are objecting to the project. However, the government is closed to discussion and does not want to hear the information, she said. Erdogan has repeatedly said the construction would go ahead despite any opposition. Known as the Crazy Project, Canal Istanbul will be a 50-kilometer Bosphorus-like artificial canal that will connect the Marmara Sea and the Black Sea in the north of the city. The project has been on the government's agenda since 2011.
Anti-ISIS operations continue throughout Turkey. In operations across 12 provinces, a total of 169 people have been detained. The first prototypes for the domestically produced car were unveiled on December 27.
President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan unveiled prototypes of a sports utility vehicle and a sedan, both fully electric and C-segment models. The two models unveiled were in red and white, the colors of the Turkish flag. Speaking at the unveiling ceremony, Erdoğan said Turkey aimed not only to sell the car domestically, but also wanted to become a global brand, starting with Europe. We're all together witnessing Turkey's 60-year-old dream become.
The wealth amnesty program in Turkey has been extended for an additional 6 months.
Decision numbered 1948 of the Presidency of the Republic of Turkey, published in the official Gazette on December 30th, 2019, wherein individuals and companies were permitted to regularize their undisclosed assets by paying a 1% tax, has been extended to June 30th, 2020. The range of assets that fall under the amnesty program include assets held abroad and in Turkey: money, gold, foreign currency, securities, and other capital market instruments. It is not sufficient to only declare the assets to benefit from the amnesty. The foreign assets must also be repatriated into Turkey or be transferred into a Turkish bank or intermediary institution account within 3 months after declaration. The decision is seen as an attempt to fight against inflation and the foreign currency crisis ongoing since 2018, as well as to allow for fresh money flow into the country.
Now for a roundup of Turkey's Football Super League.
2020.
Ekrem İmamoğlu's second victory in the repeated elections for the Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality has been voted as the most remarkable event of 2019 in an online survey conducted by journalist Murat Yetkin. The March 2019 Istanbul mayoral election took place on March 31st, 2019, as part of the 2019 Turkish local elections. In addition to a mayor for the Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality, all 39 Istanbul districts elected their own individual mayors as well as district councillors. The nominee of the governing Justice and Development Party was Binali Yıldırım, a former prime minister. The main opposition Republicans People's Party announced their candidate to be the serving mayor of the district of Beylikdüzü, Ekrem İmamoğlu. Early results on election night showed that People's Alliance candidate Binali Yıldırım held a small lead over his Nation Alliance rival Ekrem İmamoğlu. However, as the lead narrowed and a blackout occurred over the reporting of new results, İmamoğlu overtook Yıldırım according to the Supreme Electoral Council on noon on April 1st. Yıldırım and his Justice and Development Party announced that they would contest the results, citing electoral irregularities and a series of enumerating errors when recording results.
İstanbul'da seçimi kazandık.
Kazandığımızı biliyorum. İstanbul'da seçimi kazandık.
İtibariyle Ekrem İmamoğlu 4 milyon 159 bin 650 bana gelen rakam. Binali Bey'in 4 milyon 131 bin 761 oyu sisteme tanımlanmış vaziyette.
Adalet istiyorum. Ekrem İmamoğlu İstanbul Büyükşehir Belediyesi.
Following the conclusion of a full recount in Maltepe on April 16th, İmamoğlu was summoned by the electoral authorities to receive his certificate of election. However, his mayoralty was cut short by the AKP's request for the election to be annulled, lasting 18 days.
Yüksek Seçim Kurulu İstanbul Büyükşehir Belediye Başkanlığı seçimlerini iptal etti.
The Supreme Electoral Board decreed that the election would be annulled and repeated on June 23, 2019. This decision was based on the objections raised by the AKP regarding the fact that despite the law, some balloting committee presidents and members were not public officials.
Aynen öyle. Aynen öyle. Aynen öyle. Aynen. Aferin sana delikanlı. Her şey güzel olacak. Aynen.
Tarihi bir akşamdayız. Uzun yıllar sonra ilk kez iki siyasi halkın merak ettiği soruları yanıtlamayı kabul ettiler.
The rerun resulted in a victory for İmamoğlu with a much greater margin, so he resumed his duties on June 27th. Yıldırım lost 11 districts he had won in March and saw a 4% decrease in his previous vote share.
Seçimleri rakibim Ekrem İmamoğlu önde götürmektedir.
Ne mutlu bana ki sevgi kazandı, sevgi. Artık hak, hukuk, adalet var. Bu şehirde biliyorum bugün demokrasiyi tamir ettiniz. Her şey oldu.
That's all from This Week in Turkey. See you next Friday at 9 p.m.